Daesh terrorists have launched a chemical attack on a Syrian military airport in the eastern province of Deir al-Zawr. Syrian state media reported that the ISIL used mustard gas in its offensive against the army base located south of Deir al-Zawr city. There were no immediate reports of possible casualties. The Syrian army, backed by Russian airstrikes, managed to flush terrorists out of several villages near the airport last year. However, Takfiri terrorists are still in control of parts of the province that borders Iraq, where they launched chemical attacks on the northern city of Taza last month. Several people, including minors, were killed in those attacks. Paris correspondent for American Herald Tribune, Gearóid Ó Colmáin, joins us now from Paris. Sir, welcome to the program. First of all, give us your thoughts on the recent reports indicating that the Daesh Takfiri terrorists have yet again resorted to unconventional weapons in their battle against the Syrian government.
Well, the first thing that needs to be said is that NATO is backing these terrorists, and they have chemical weapons. We know they have chemical weapons because an independent UN inquiry, a commission of inquiry, stated in July 2013 that the so-called rebels, the Takfiri terrorists, had chemical weapons. And we know they've used chemical weapons, as there's extensive evidence of this. And these terrorists who are using chemical weapons against the civilian population of Syria are receiving weapons, possibly these chemical weapons they're using, from Turkey. That has been confirmed by the Russian government in recent statements to the United Nations by Ambassador Churkin. So that is incontrovertible at this stage, that the NATO-backed terrorists are using weapons of mass destruction against the civilian population in Syria and, as you stated already, Iraq. So this is something that the Western public needs to be aware of, because much of the media campaign against Syria, which is an integral part of the war effort by NATO, has consisted in basically accusing the Syrian government of using chemical weapons, in spite of the fact that there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever of the Syrian government ever using chemical weapons against its own people or against anyone. So people need to understand that the Western-backed terrorists are now resorting to weapons of mass destruction because they are losing the war in Syria. The attempt to take that airport failed. Car bombs didn't work. The Syrian government, the Syrian armed forces dealt with that very well. They're now a highly equipped army. The Syrian Arab army has been re-equipped by the Russians and Iranians. It's now a state-of-the-art army. It has the capacity to retake Syria and end the war on its own. So the only way that the Takfiri terrorists can gain ground is to use chemical weapons, weapons of mass destruction. So what people need to understand is that the West is backing a genocidal war against the Syrian people, that the West is entirely responsible for this war. The real war criminals here are François Hollande, David Cameron, Barack Obama, and Netanyahu and Erdogan of Turkey. These are war criminals who need to be brought to justice for their support for this activity. This is NATO. These are NATO terrorists. The Turks are supporting these Takfiri terrorists. Turkey is a member of NATO. So, this needs to stop, because if they possess sufficient quantities of these weapons of mass destruction, you could be talking about major massacres, and that would be an absolute disaster. There's been nothing about this, of course, in the Western press, and usually when the rebels commit atrocities, and that is more or less every day, there's almost nothing about it, or else those atrocities are blamed on the Syrian government.
Well, the timing of the use of these weapons of mass destruction also comes into question. We know of the major gains that the Syrian army has made recently in Palmyra and in the area of Qaryatayn in Homs province. Maybe the recent chemical attack is a way for retaliating for these major losses that the Daesh Takfiri terrorists have suffered in Syria.
Absolutely. I mean, the Daesh Takfiri terrorists are on the run. A lot of them, of course, coming into Europe now, and they're probably going to be, as I've said already, on numerous occasions, they're probably going to be redeployed to other areas of US-backed destabilization. But they're certainly on the run in Syria, and they're on the run in Iraq. We've seen the Iraqi army make major advances. Relations between Iran, Syria, and Iraq are probably better than they've been in decades. The pipeline is still going ahead. The reasons for this war, the reasons that the West is at war with Syria, have not been. The war effort has not worked, as it were. And so we can see now that the Takfiri terrorists are on the run, and they're resorting to extreme methods of retaliation. And I don't think that will work. But Palmyra, there's still a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of demining going on there right now. But I think that most of Palmyra is now under Syrian control, and that process will continue until the country is finally liberated.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Mr. Gearóid Ó Colmáin, joining us from the French capital, Paris.